Alrighty, you guys, welcome back to the channel. It is Comic Kid here again, and today we have another advanced review for y'all. Now, this was a big week. Last week was a big week just because all the books were big and in the prestige format and all that. This week is big in terms of number of titles, and that said, there aren't really any like new number ones. There are 3 that I'm gonna be sure to focus on this time. But, I mean, all around, it's a pretty big week from DC. You have Batman, Nightwing, Superman Son of Kal-El, Batman Catwoman, and then, of course, the 3 new number ones, which are the Batman Secret Files, Peacekeeper 1, the Nubia and the Amazons, and Catwoman Lonely City. Now, I do gotta say, I've really enjoyed everything that I've read this week so far. Everything I just mentioned is specifically what I've read so far. I do plan on reading all the other titles, you know, it's just this is what I had time to read, and these are some of my favorites and number ones, so I try to prioritize these and yada yada yada. But as always, before we get started, be sure to check out the links in the description below. It really helps out the channel more than y'all might even realize. And don't forget to smash like and subscribe as well. It'll let me know if y'all even care about the advanced reviews. I know they're not my most viewed videos, but I mean, if y'all want to know my thoughts on each book as they come out, like, I'm happy to give them to you. And then lastly, don't forget to check out my friends over at Next Issue Podcast. They're great guys, love them to death, and they know their stuff as well. But we'll go ahead and just jump right in. Now we'll start off with the Fear State stuff for the week with Batman and Nightwing, and then we'll transition into Peacemaker and whatnot. I won't be talking about Batman and Catwoman or Superman Son of Kal-El, just because they're not number ones and nothing too newsworthy happens in these issues in particular. At the time this video is being recorded and released, I'm sure many of you know about the news with Superman, but we'll save that for maybe when issue 5 comes out. I don't know. Personally, I'm all for it, but besides that, we're gonna focus on the Fear State stuff to start. Now, as far as Batman goes, I do feel like I might be starting to forget some of what's happening in the story. Ever since Batman went back to a monthly release schedule, I've felt like I've forgotten a lot of stuff, and I get that it's hard for writers to keep up with a like twice a month sort of release schedule, but I did enjoy that. I was happy to spend an extra $3 on Batman or $4 on Batman a month, whatever. Batman's my guy, absolutely no complaints, and I do feel like it helped me remember the story a bit better. And so I will be rereading all of Fear State in one chunk right before the last issue comes out, just so that I have everything in my mind before I judge Tynan's finale. But overall, I felt like this issue is still fine. It's actually really nice to see just how powerful Poison Ivy has become, and I am low-key in love with this new design for her. I think Jimenez just knocks it out of the park. They're definitely planting seeds here and there for stuff that's gonna continue on after Tynan leaves and when Joshua Williamson comes aboard and whatnot, but they only have like 1 or 2 issues left of Fear State, and it does still kind of feel like they have a lot that they still need to wrap up. That said, the kind of subplot with Miracle Molly does kind of, we'll say, foreshadow how Batman might come about for the Future State event. I have a theory there, I could be wrong, but I'm guessing Batman will end up in the machine somehow and it might erase his trauma, and then Batman goes missing, and then he was never actually dead like people thought he was just alive, and then people kidnap him, restore his memories, something like that. I have absolutely no idea if that's what's actually going to happen. I just think that is something they could do. I have no idea when Joshua Williamson's story is going to take place, but supposedly the costume change in the upcoming issues is going to be part of the story. But just a theory, could totally end up wrong, who knows. But I really feel like Nightwing is still just pedal to the metal, just 100% going strong, and despite the fact that it is part of a event crossover, it's just still so good. And Barbara Gordon in this story makes the point that, like, Dick just dropped everything that he was doing in Bloodhaven. They are literally interrupting the Nightwing issues for the Fear State event, but I like that A, they acknowledge that, and B, they show just how strong Dick and Bab's relationship can be at times. And so I thought this was some great character development, wonderful relationship building. And I know some people prefer Dick with Starfire, or Dick with Sean Sang, or Dick with literally anyone else in the DC universe maybe, but I've personally always been a fan of him and Barbara together, and so I am like here for Tom Taylor's Nightwing run, let me tell you. It's also nice to see the new Batgirl suit in action and all that as well, and you're definitely seeing in both issues kind of the early formations of the Batgirls series for next year kind of start to come into fruition. Like, they are definitely setting it up. It's been done in a pretty solid way so far, but I mean, you're definitely seeing more of Stephanie and Cassandra as well, so... Now, to continue on with the Fear State stuff, this brings us to Batman Secret Files Peacemaker 1. This is a lot like the one that they did for Miracle Molly and Clown Hunter, except this one, as the title suggests, focuses on Peacemaker number 1. Now, I wouldn't say that this story makes you like Sean Mahoney in any way or anything. It's not really supposed to make you like him, but you are a bit more sympathetic to him. And given a character like this, who you are kind of just supposed to not like, who is the villain and whatnot, he's got an intriguing enough backstory. It's easy to see how he got a twisted form of justice in his own mind and stuff like that, and I do feel like it was a solid one-shot all around. Personally, I feel like I preferred the Miracle Molly one, but this one is not bad by any means, and does still add to the character and the overall story, I'd say. That said, even though it does add some interesting context, I would not call this an essential read by any means, and so if you have a few extra bucks or whatever, it might be worth it for you to get something else. That said, it's not going to be a waste of your money either. It's still a nice, fun, intriguing one-shot, and if you're at all interested in the character, then I think you'll enjoy it. But that's really all I have to say about this issue. Like, there's really not much else to add. So I guess we'll move on to Nubia and the Amazons. Now, I do not know much about Nubia at all. Most of the Wonder Woman stuff I've read is New 52 onwards, or rather, I guess I'd say Greg Rucka onwards. I've read most of Rucka's run and like a bunch of stuff post Infinite Crisis and onward. But, I mean, I definitely have my gaps in Wonder Woman history, and I am not too familiar with what was previously established with Nubia as a character. That said, I did read the Future State stuff. I thought it was okay. I am 100% on board with this series, though. I thought it was an incredibly strong start to a new Wonder Woman title. You get to see a bit more of the Amazons and like what goes on while Diana's not there, and you get a little bit more of their backstory and mythos as well. And again, I'm not sure how much of this is new or not, but to me it was new, and so I thought seeing stuff like the Well of Souls was really interesting, and that's how more Amazons ended up on the island, and I liked the expansion of the Wonder Woman mythology there. For those of you who don't know, this series starts with Nubia as the new leader of the Amazons. Basically, Hippolyta's off filling in for Wonder Woman in the Justice League, and so Nubia is filling in for Hippolyta instead. And it seems like she's doing a good job so far. There's definitely some like secrets that we aren't too sure about. We're not quite sure how much Nubia herself knows, but I mean, it's a pretty intriguing storyline set up so far. Now, that said, much like Batman and Fear State, this one, Nubia and the Amazons, is also setting up stuff that will come after it, or maybe like towards the end of the actual series, but it specifically mentions that it is also a prelude to Trial of the Amazons. And based on what little they kind of already announced at like Fandom, it is a Wonder Woman focused event. It looks like it's going to involve the Wonder Woman, the Amazons, most of the DC universe potentially, but it does seem to be a Wonder Woman focused event, obviously. And you definitely see some of the early stages of that in this issue. And I felt like it was a really good setup. It does feel like it's planting the seeds for the rest of the series. I don't know how involved Nubia is going to be, like, outside of this series. Obviously, she's going to be in all 6 issues, but I basically don't know if the event is going to be after this miniseries or during. But I gotta hand it to them. This was a wonderful, wonderful first issue. It still didn't like blow my mind by any means, but based on what I read with the Future State stuff, I am much more intrigued by this storyline and seeing how we get to there than I am with what we saw in Future State. So if you were thinking about passing on this one, I'd honestly recommend giving the first one at least one shot. Like, I thought it was really, really solid. Now, last but not least, this one is probably my favorite of the week. I don't know, it's so close with Nubia, but Catwoman, Lonely City. This one is both written and illustrated by Chang and is almost sort of a Dark Knight Returns story for Selina Kyle. Don't get me wrong, it is not the Dark Knight Returns version of that character, but it is an older Selina, probably mid to late 50s. She's just gotten out of prison, Batman's dead, Gotham's kind of at peace, quotey fingers. It's not without its problems, but it's at least better. And I just think this is a really, really interesting look at a possible future for Gotham City. Now, we don't know too much about, like, how Batman went out. We do kind of see it, kind of not, but, like, those who, if you read the issue, then you'll know what I'm talking about. But, I mean, it's just a really, really solid, well-told story, in my opinion. This version of Selina is very believable, you can tell, and you actually see her have history with other villains in Gotham. There's still, like, the key focus of her strained relationship with Batman, and we're not kind of quite sure if she went out, like, doing the right thing or not before she went to prison. Those details are still a little unclear. Personally, I'm choosing to believe that she did do the right thing to the best of her extent, but she might have failed. But again, that's just implications and speculations on my part. So, that said, I mean, everything about this story is great. The artwork, the writing, its pacing, everything about it is just wonderful, and I really like kind of the subplot that they're doing with Harvey Dent on the side as well. I think spinning him as like a sane person, but still the villain, is a really interesting take because politicians, am I right? But all in all, I am definitely looking forward to more of this series. Also, being Black Label, this is the first time I've noticed in a while that they did not censor any curse words. And for those of you who remember, Black Label was originally launched as like an adults-only type brand for DC, but then after all the fiasco with Batman Damned, it just kind of became their hub for Elseworlds. And even Black Label titles were still censoring language, people, stuff like that. And so I don't know if that means, like with Dan DiDio gone, that they're warming up to the more mature content again, but I did notice that nothing was censored in this book. So I'm not saying that's a good or bad thing one way or the other, it is just an observation, and personally, if you're gonna label something under Black Label, I'd rather it be more mature anyways, but it doesn't add or subtract to the overall quality of the book by any means. So if the price tag isn't enough to deter you, then I would definitely recommend Catwoman, Lonely City. But that is it for today, you guys. As always, don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and congratulations to DC on a really, really strong week so far. But that is everything that I have for y'all today. Thank y'all so much for watching, and I will see you guys again real soon.